Story 1. Until her, I believed that people would tell me what was wrong when it was wrong. Now, I worry I'm overstepping myself all the time and that no one will tell me they're uncomfortable with me until they get explosively angry with me. Story 2. My ability to open up and be vulnerable with women. She never wanted me to talk about my feelings. She wanted me to talk about my feelings so she could talk about how she felt about my feelings. Then she would use whatever I said as a weapon against me. Then she wondered why I didn't open up with her anymore. I'm still working through that. Story 3. Marriage, pregnancy, trusting others to provide support. After 25 years of marriage, I never want to do it again. I was the breadwinner, mom, leader, and everything. I'm too exhausted to do it again. As a child and in my youth, I dreamed of having those pregnancies where the man is happy and touches your belly and bonds with the baby. He acted like I was repulsive. He didn't help in any way. He never bonded even after they were born. We had two in the beginning of our marriage when we were only 18, 19. I thought having two more later in life would be better. But it was the same 10 years later. I genuinely feel robbed. I love my kids, and they are amazing. As I sit here going through menopause with adult children, I just feel so empty and sad because it will never happen for me. I hate myself for giving him all that time. Why didn't I leave? Story 4. I never went totally crazy for Cocoa Puffs for someone after her. Always just a little muted instead. It's not all bad. It's just not mind-bendingly good. Story 5. Everyone has these deep answers. I was gonna say Buffalo Wild Wings. We used to go every Thursday for their 60-cent wings. Now I can't go there without being afraid of running into him. Laughing out loud. Story 6. It took me a solid 4.5 years to realize I was sabotaging myself during talking phases with women. I couldn't figure out why I could be myself but never get that feeling of deep connection. After a lot of self-reflection and a little bit of self-therapy, I realized I was comparing everybody to her. I was subconsciously thinking they were going to ruin my mental health and take away my peace the way she did, so I never got too close. I had to train my brain to know it's not fair to that person to compare them to somebody they have nothing to do with. They aren't that person, and they won't do that to you. After that, for the first time in years, I finally felt something again. I felt truly vulnerable with somebody, like, I'm ready for this. Story 7. The ability to truly bond with another person and feel safe in that bond, where I can be myself. I was waking up every day and worrying whether today was going to be my last day with them or not. Awful. Story 8. You know how some words stick with you forever? When my ex said, I think I would find it easier to overcome my commitment issues if you lost some weight. It shattered a part of me I didn't even know was fragile. Even though I know it wasn't really about me, those words take time to let go of. And in a way, he did ruin that for me. Story 9. My ex is actually an amazing woman. What did she ruin? Maybe a fair chunk of my self-confidence. She sure gave me a well-needed reality check. My new partner is amazing too. No worries. Story 10. I moved over an hour away and live near a small beach that I love to walk on daily. This person drives over an hour to show up at the beach just to disturb my peace and then tells everyone I'm stalking him and his girlfriend. The audacity. Edited to add. I left his cheating, lying, alcoholic self 6 years ago. I took my stuff and left him everything, all the furniture in the house. He's sitting in $1 million home that we paid $400,000 for in 2015. But he still does this. Story 11. Wanting to get married. He waited until we were engaged to tell me that his ex-fiancée was not dead and that he lied to me because he was embarrassed by her. I will never get engaged or marry someone after that. Story 12. I told my children to find their happiness as individuals and never settle for anything less than the best. Even if that means they'll never find it, that's okay. Create strong, healthy friendships that are like family and treat you well. Oh, and travel and explore life as much as possible. Too many childish adults out there have zero comprehension of being a committed and healthy individual, let alone a partner. I want my children to change the trajectory in their course because I apparently couldn't when choosing my poor life partners. Story 13. Journaling. They read my whole journal while I was asleep and picked a huge fight the next day. I cannot journal anymore, and if I do, I cannot be completely open or honest. It really sucks because it was such an amazing tool for my mental health. Story 14, my sanity. Being out in public. I was so incredibly anxious everywhere I went. I had to get on medication. Truth be told, he didn't do a lot to warrant it, but the way he broke up with me was really cruel. I loved him so much, and the breakup destroyed me. Story 15, the newborn days with our son. He started cheating about a week after the birth, and between that, fighting over it and severe postpartum depression, I didn't really get to relax and enjoy those first few months with my baby. The first few years, really. Story 16, empathy for people in full-blown addiction. He was an alcoholic near the end, and everything he did to me after the breakup, I just can't find empathy for anyone who drinks and has their life fall apart. But I know that's not the correct way to think. I'm working on it. Everyone has their issues and deserves to be happy. But sometimes I can't help but feel no empathy. Story 17. Where do I begin? He was pushy for sex all the time to the point where I stopped being attracted to him because my consent meant nothing to him. He was regularly violating my boundaries during sex, and now I struggle with connecting with people during sex and feeling like whoever I am with does not care about my experience, only their own. So, I guess all that to say he ruined men for me and now I date just women. Story 18. If a guy even spoke to me or showed any interest in a conversation with me, my ex would say he was trying to sleep with me. To this day, even if a male asks me about my weekend or says hello in passing, I still think that. Story 19. Before him, I was a bit promiscuous, pretty much being with whoever I wanted to whenever I wanted to. But after my most recent ex, he body-shamed me and shamed me about sex with such cruelty, and constantly tried to pursue other women when we were together. I don't think I can ever comfortably have intimacy with anyone again, whether it is intimate or not. Story 20. My peace of mind. She insisted upon commenting and criticizing everything I did. Nothing was ever right or enough. I've spent the last 2 years getting her voice out of my head and am finally getting comfortable with myself for the first time in years. It's gratifying that her life fell apart after she left me, but I'd trade that satisfaction for those years back. Any day. Story 21. When we got married, we got matching tattoos. When we divorced, his mistress, now girlfriend, paid for him to get it covered with a half sleeve of Jack and Sally, and she got the same piece. Meanwhile, I decided to go back to school and was stuck staring at the ugly original piece I had, planning out my cover-up when I could afford it. But them getting the matching nightmare tattoos irritated me because it was one of my favorite movies, and he knew that. Story 22. A few phrases, my self-confidence, some of my favorite podcasts that we'd listen to together, RuPaul's Drag Race, Dungeons and Dragons to an extent, my ability to trust anyone to stay in my life. Story 23. Nothing. My exes weren't that bad with the exception of the first and the last. With the first, I stayed longer than I should have, but by the time I was with my last ex, I knew to leave when I saw red flags. Story 24. I can write a whole 3 pages of all the things he has done to me. He would lie all the time. I was so insecure and scared. I would go through his phone constantly because I was worried he was cheating. He never stood up for me when his parents or someone we didn't know would talk down to me. Oh, and he broke up with me when the best friend he told me not to worry about got a divorce from her wife. He broke up with me and tried to get with her. A lot of trauma has moved on to my next relationship, but it has gotten better. Story 25. Football. I am from the Southeast United States, where football is a significant part of most people's identity. The team you support says a lot about you. I graduated from Auburn and always watched all the games until about 10 years ago. I was married to a narcissist who was a high school band director, and it was mandatory that I attend all games. It did not matter that we had small children and that he did not have time to help me manage them at a football stadium because he was working. I was expected to be there. If I ever missed a game, I would get the silent treatment for weeks. Eventually, I lost all love for the game and felt only resentment. Even now that we are divorced, I cannot seem to care about it anymore. Story 26. My clitoris. I wish he had abused anything other than that. She cannot be touched now. He was convinced he knew what he was doing and thought I was close. No, I was in pain. Story 27. I already had a lot wrong with me, but I always wanted to be a mom and a housewife. Now, I'm not sure if I want to anymore. Being alone sounds so much better. Not having to tell someone how to love me, I can enjoy myself and my dog. Story 28. The idea of growing old with my first girlfriend, I always thought love was forever, so I was shocked when my high school sweetheart wanted a divorce. Even more shocking was that she slept with her boss who was twice her age. Now they are together and having children. I am thankful that we did not have kids. Probably would have ruined their lives as well. Story 29. Dirty talk. He was just so good at it and no one could compare. He sounded like a dark romance audiobook love interest. And another one was so good at oral that every other guy has been a thanks for trying type. Story 30. She ruined my ability to be in a relationship and not worry that my significant other is going to blow up at any moment. My ex had borderline personality disorder along with a whole load of other things, so I was always tiptoeing around her until she still inevitably blew up. Now, around my new partner, I always find myself choosing my words super carefully in fear that she'll blow up the same way. Story 31. Not a bad one, but video games. I dated a gamer, and that will be one of the first things I ask about on a first date. So, what do you like to do for fun? Well, actually I'm pretty big into multiplayer shooter games and hey, where are you going? He was really into video games, which to me I don't like, especially if you're older and don't have many other hobbies. Not my thing, clearly. I learned that with him, the one exception game being The Sims. Story 32. He ruined my two cats. They were brother and sister. I found them abandoned by their mother when they were just a few weeks old. My mother and I bottle-fed them. My mother owned an Amazon parrot who loved the cats and groomed them. The cats loved him too, and they would actually sleep at the bottom of his cage sometimes. I had taught them to ride in the car with me. They loved sitting in the back window. When we divorced, he took the cats just because it would hurt me, my mom, and the bird. We all missed them so much. I only saw them one more time about 1 year later. They were so obese. It was sad. I was sad. I know this was not the intent of the question, but he really did ruin them. Story 33. My health and my future. I wanted to be a teacher. A craftsman toolbox to the head broke my skull and caused brain damage. Now I have seizures. Cannot drive. Cannot live alone. Cannot work. Almost every dream I ever had is now impossible. Story 34. My self-confidence. My perception of reality. My belief that I am a nice person. My belief that I even have a soul. When someone you have dated for 12 years tells you that they still do not know a thing about you and it is all your fault, not theirs, you question a lot. Story 35. Being engaged to be married, he broke it off 6 months before we were due to get married. Road trips, music, steak, lots of places around or near me. Trust. Is not ruined. I probably won't want to get married again, at least for quite a long time, so maybe my chance of having a family is ruined. Everything is ever so slightly tainted by a love that was so honest, open, and beautiful that it unfortunately could not last. I still care for him deeply. I wish him well, and I hope he achieves his goals and dreams. I'm just gutted it won't be with me. Story 36. I feel like I am healed from everything, but I cannot tolerate watching the weather. My ex used to turn on the television to watch the weather while she got ready for work. There was a television at her work that at a minimum had a weather report on at noon. After work, she would watch the weather report on the news at 5, 6, 9, and 10 p.m. She also checked the weather website from the computer throughout the day. It was years before I even checked the weather. Sometimes I checked the quick summary, high and low temperature, and precipitation forecast on my phone because my work is affected by the weather, but I simply cannot watch a television weather report anymore. Story 37. He would spend 3 hours cooking dinner and guilt-trip me if I made plans with friends. He even guilt-tripped me for going to the gym after work. He literally wanted me to sit and watch him cook for 3 hours every night. My clothes always smelled like food, the walls and ceiling had oil residue, and everything in the living room was covered in oil. You could even wipe it off and see the difference, but he would gaslight me and say that no one else has this problem, so I'm making it up. Our grocery bill was almost double that of a family of 4, for just the 2 of us. He would consistently make food I couldn't eat due to food sensitivities, or it would be too spicy. Then he would act like a victim if I didn't eat it, saying, "But I made it less spicy for you," or "It's better this way." He added ingredients that made me sick. Needless to say, I was sick or hungry a lot because I would just eat it or pretend to eat it to avoid the drama of his sensitive ego. When I would cook, he would tell me I was cutting vegetables wrong, cooking in the wrong order, and straight up wouldn't eat it because it wasn't his taste. The most I cook now is an egg or turn on the oven for something frozen. Feels so free. Story 38. Star Wars. I was never a huge fan to begin with, but I liked it. I later found out he cheated on me with the "We Are Only Friends" girl and found a Star Wars love card with lots of puns and hearts in it with a "Welcome to the Heartside" phrase. Since that moment, my mind automatically rejects anything related to Star Wars. Oh, and their wedding was Star Wars themed with a lightsaber battle instead of a dance, and her walk down the aisle was also Star Wars themed.